Wasn't going to make a video today because the price didn't move. And then when the price doesn't move, people care even less about Bitcoin. And then it'll get low engagement, and then I won't want to make a video for the rest of the week. But I thought with low engagement and people not caring about Bitcoin, I could squeak a weird one in. And this one will probably be maybe one of the weirder videos I think I'll ever do. And reason being is that I fully haven't hashed this out in my mind. I've just been running the numbers, so to speak. And you know that I'm a nut about Fibonacci's. I mean, I started this channel. My audition tape to Ben was, listen, I don't trade. I just do support and resistance and Fibonacci's. You know, that was my whole, that was my pitch. And then as such, I also make most of my decisions on Fibonacci's. And, you know, with everything, with relationships, with fitness, with food. So when it comes to this is super weird, and it's a little dicey. So this is just a, you know, it's just me kind of putting my intellectual plinko chips down the thing, and hopefully they hit the numbers and they don't hit the gutter, so to speak. But this has to do with the Fibonacci ratios and adoption. And now I'm gonna bring this up in a second. What was it called? It was called, I think, golden ratio. Just gonna bring it up so we have this. Where is it? PNG. There it is. There it is. Yeah. Actually, when I did this thumbnail, you know, with the Charlie Kirk, like it right here. Let me see here. Yeah, you can imagine where this landed, right? It was just a picture. I mean, I had to move it because I thought it would be a little bit too over the top. But when it comes to, I was just thinking about symbols, numerology, and a couple of things that are inverse to the good nature of humanity. So what do I always say? The two things that humans are horrible at: understanding time and exponential growth. Those are two deficits of the human experience on our level, the good humans. We're like the dozers in Fraggle Rock. We're just building stuff, you know, and then once we build something, we put some kids in it, and the kids grow up and they build something, and it's just onward and upward, right? But what we don't understand is time and exponential growth. Now, the dark forces are steeped in that knowledge. It's their specialty. Time and exponential growth. They have understood it for centuries, and it's the two things that they know most. Like these dark forces are intergenerational. So they're not going through you know, lifespan time, which we do. You know, what is 100 years? Oh, I get 100 years. Well, what's 300? Well, it's, you know, twice as long or 3 times as long as my lifespan, I suppose. But then, you know, if we go back 300 years, we're almost into our own imagination as to what the hell it even was, the world, you know. So we've left our connection to our own lifespan, so to speak. And then when most people will say, well, in 300 years, if the world's still around, like we can't fathom lifespans outside of our 100-year lifespan. And then exponential growth. Now, when I think of the dark forces, the small concentric circle of power and money, their knowledge of numerology, symbols, time, and exponential growth are essentially at the forefront of everything they do. So when when I bring in the Fibonacci to Charlie Kirk, this is where it gets weird, because it's about adoption rates, right? The Fibonacci sequence 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 88. It hits that the S curve that you'll hear Bitcoiners talking about, where adoption is no longer at question. It's just a life of its own. So there comes a, that's why these numbers make so much sense to development of hurricanes and leaves and tree trunks and stuff like that. It's the way it starts, and then it gets to a certain point and it has a life of its own, and it's uncontrollable, especially when it gets to adoption. So if you are a global think tank, essentially all you are is you run numbers and data in order to come up with projections of where things will go. So in the recent months, maybe month or two, you saw Charlie Kirk pivot on Israel. Now, he didn't pivot on the Jews, or he didn't pivot on the Jewish faith. He pivoted on the Israeli government, which to me has always been a separate. It's like, so when I talk about the Israeli government, I'm not really referring to the Jewish people. It's kind of like if I think Mark Carney is a WEF puppet for the Canadian government, I'm not anti-Canadian. I'm anti-Canadian government. I'm basically anti-government as in general. There's not really a government that I'm like, you know what, except for this government. This government's really great. So he did start pivoting and started, asking questions. And with a platform as large as Charlie's, him asking questions has reverberations across the globe. You bring into the butterfly chaos, the butterfly flaps its wings, and then in Japan there's a hurricane or whatever, how that thing goes. And then I started thinking, well, who cares? He started questioning. Everyone questions these things. Why this? Why that? How come? I've been questioning it on this channel for a while because I'm Canadian, and I'm like, well, who cares about this country? Why don't you care about Haiti or Syria or where all these injustices are happening? Why this country, right? And so when he started talking about questioning certain aspects, ADL, Hamas, Mossad, all these questions. I mean, this is what Charlie Kirk did. He asked questions. He wanted good faith debate and, public discourse, the open marketplace of ideas. How dare he, right? And then, so in my mind, I'm like, well, he wasn't really pivoting that much. He was just asking questions. It wasn't like his platform had changed and he was anti this or anti that. He was just like, what about this? What about, why can't we do this? The questions that everyone kind of goes through with their struggles with this geopolitics. And then I started thinking about the Fibonacci adoption rate. What does it take if you are a data collecting think tank, power elite that ran numbers on adoption? And I asked Grok, now Grok's full of shit. Don't get me wrong. Grok is kind of reminds me of like when a woman's breaking up with a man and her friends, her sewing circle, that kind of feed her bullshit. To me, that's kind of what Grok is. Like I can change Grok's mind by kind of insulting it, and it'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and it'll kind of change it. So, but when it comes to the adoption rate, so this is backwards for me. So it's like I'm a weatherman trying to do it, so like 3. No, it's opposite. 5. Oh, I'm out of the screen. 8, 13, 24, 20. What did I'm losing? I'm trying to do my 55, 88. Once it gets to this certain point, the adoption rate takes on a life of its own outside it if it's a real original genesis, and there's no stopping it. So the numbers Grok and I came up with was between 5 and 7. So now we're not talking about single units here. Like it could be cohorts, it could be countries, it could be chapters of turning points, so to speak. But these numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on and so on. It came to a number between, because I asked where these Fibonacci, where's the 23.6% fib in this adoption rate, and it came out to about 5 to 7. I'm like, well, that's not a lot, of course, because I have troubles because I'm a human with exponential growth. I don't really get it until I look back on it. And like, holy shit, right there is where it took off, right? So if you think about a chapter of intellectual territory from people, and the cohort could have 100 people, I don't know, or one person, but let's just use it, just extrapolate it out into a bigger number of people so it kind of makes sense. 1, nothing. 2, it's kind of like Metcalfe's laws as well, right? So every additional entrance into this idea extrapolates the initial idea. And so for the questioning of Israel from Charlie Kirk, it doesn't have to go on that long before the powers that be realize that if it gets to this 23.6% fib, which is about between 5 and 9, so to speak, even though they're outside of the numbers, it's over. It will carry on a life of its own. And we're not talking about my channel and the exponential aspect of me talking about this. We're talking about the largest platform, essentially, that we've seen in a long time when it comes to political analysis, and like his power is insane, and it was always used the way the Israeli government wanted to. He was as pro-Zionist as you could get, and then he shifted. So to me, I guess it reconciles how early we were in his pivot to his exit from that scene. It was like, well, why would that? He wasn't really doing anything, But these people, when they understand the Fibonacci adoption rates, how fast it goes, they can see we can't let it get here, because at this point it's over. We have to stop it here. And this is where, the morality of it comes in. Oh, well, hey, slow down. He's just asking questions. Like, well, and once it gets to that 23.6% fib of adoption rate, he's no longer answering questions. He's creating a movement of other people asking questions with other people asking questions infinitely. And it just spirals into the golden meme, and it becomes a life of its own outside of the genesis of Charlie Kirk slowly pivoting and changing course with his ideas, just asking questions. And then when it comes to symbolism, I was like, what's with this neck? So we have the Ukrainian girl on the train, Irina, right? Getting stabbed in the neck, like a horrific, complete innocence. Like she was deep in her phone, didn't know what happened. Even though some of those iconic pictures, I think she's like looking up, like, what the? It happened out of nowhere. And then, of course, 2 minutes later, we all know what happened there. And when one time it happens, you know, it's hard to put things together. It's hard to dot the I's and T's and connect the little dots with the thread. And then when then, you know, 3 days later, you see Charlie Kirk getting shot in his neck. I mean, these symbols are how they laugh at us, so to speak. It's right out there, you know. And to me, when I see the fighting amongst the slaves, right, left, right, whatever, they're all slaves on the plantation. I see the masters of the plantation doing the burns, like, excellent, perfect. They're all fighting just like we planned. This is how they keep track and keep control of the slaves. Just have them fight. And so what happens with Charlie Kirk, the symbolism wise, you know, with the neck and the bleeding out, you know, it's crazy, right? It's like, you know, when you want to, you know, break down the metaphor, you know, what was he doing? He was kind of, you know, he's sticking out his neck. Now, Irina, the innocent girl, to me, that was just the death of innocence, complete innocence and fear. And what I always tell, like, when I have talks with the mom, she'll have these reactions to fear, right? And then I always tell her, as soon as something's trying to make you scared, that's the first red flag, right? Because what that does is it allows the idea to permeate the intellectual blood-brain barrier, right? Without fear, you don't really even hear a goddamn thing. You know what I mean? It's all fodder. It's all, what? That's crazy. Whoa, that's stupid. You know, it doesn't break that intellectual blood-brain barrier. But with fear is like the adjuvant of the vaccine that kind of allows it to get in there and embed itself. And once it's embedded, it takes over the host. And they seriously can't get it out anymore. Like so to a certain degree, like I was all weekend long, I couldn't really get over it because the sadness of Charlie Kirk dying, like, to me, will reverberate forever, because those on the other side that don't see the complete heartbreak of it all, they will, because there's a certain truth, objective truth to everything, you know, like a glimmer of hope. I'm jumping back for it. My glimmer of hope. I saw this video today where it connected all of these talking points that allowed people. So this was the adjuvant that allowed the meme to cross the intellectual blood-brain barrier with these people that were dancing on his grave. They would always, you know, people just cite these things. And there's this one video, I should have connected it. It was on Twitter, and it was deep in my video feed, so I can't share. Like, I can't. It's just I don't know how to, unless I screen record it. Anyway, it was connecting the longer conversation to all these things. You know, everything he said about that would make someone think he's a complete racist and a complete monster. It's like it broke down the actual, you know, complete. Some of them are 2-hour conversations where these things are kind of cherry picked. And so when I say the objective truth will eventually come out, it always does. You know, that's where patience comes into everything, because the objective truth will always, like, you can't hold it down, you know, because a good lie feeds on other worse lies. So it's hard to keep track of everything. Whereas just an objective truth, it's an easy place to stand, because you're really just defending a really great math equation, a 2 + 2 = 4 of sorts. You know, there's just you can massage weird things into it, but at the end of the day, it's still fourth. But the heartbreak was to see how fractured this society was, that people found it okay to be elated with father's death. I couldn't get over it because like, I started wondering, do these people have kids like that are making these TikToks? Like a lot of them are, you know, older white liberal women. I'm like, they must have kids. They must have kids. Maybe they're not married anymore. Maybe they hate men, or I don't know. Like I don't know where that comes from. But to see it, I was like, oh man, this is deep. This is a deep, dark place that we're at, where people feel like it's okay to do this. And I also found myself thinking, what would Charlie Kirk do? I don't know about you, if it came up, because you go through a lot of emotions, you know, like vengeance does feel good for a bit, you know, like these people that are getting fired. I don't think Charlie Kirk would want that, you know, and it sounds weird to say, but I think Charlie Kirk would probably say, just forgive them, because that will, you know, piss them off more. Right. And I actually feel pretty sorry for them for a couple reasons. There's an exposure scenario going on. You know, like one of my fears with this channel is that I'm embarrassed of everything I do, right? Like, that's why I don't have any tattoos, because I'm like, what the hell was I thinking that was cool for, you know, 10 years later. And I know that everything's etched in internet histoire. So, you know, at first it kind of keeps you grounded into like a lane. Like, well, I don't want to screw things up. At this point, I don't really care. Like, the channel's here for Duke to be monetized if he ever wants to do it, right? But there's an exposure happening to these people that I don't think they will ever live down. And now their ideas will die, and their paradigms will change, and they'll move on, and they'll evolve, and they'll become different and think differently. But that display will always be there on the internet. They can delete it, right? Right? You can delete whatever you want, but I mean, the screenshots are there. They're all there. Like, nothing's really deleted. You know what I mean? Like, it's there. And I've always said the internet is just a giant honeypot anyway, right? So one of my fears for this channel was just basically, I've you know, dumped whatever I think into the honeypot. You know, there's enough of me on this channel to completely do an AI version of me, probably in 2 or 3 years. That would seem maybe, you know, identical to this, or perhaps, I don't know, you know. So this exposure that's happening to these people, I feel bad, because they're not going to, they won't be able to live it down as the temperature changes, right? You'll always kind of be known for that. Like, I was joking around with a buddy yesterday. It's like, imagine you're, you know, 2 years into a relationship with some girl, and you're like, you know, this girl's pretty different. She's you know, you know, she's kind of everything I ever wanted. And then somewhere deep in the recesses of her Instagram or something, or a TikTok or whatever, you see that it was doing a dance celebrating the complete horrific death of another human. You just can't look past that, right? And now you can try to reconcile it, like, it was, you know, a time long ago. She's different. It's like, it'd be grounds for immediate dismissal for me, but it probably wouldn't get that far anyway, right? But I'm just saying, like, those type of things. I like think about employers. Like, it becomes its own conspiracy. Like, is this honeypot here to expose them, you know, so they never work again? I mean, how would you overlook that unless you were completely as far as the other side goes, and you were looking for these people to hire. You're like, you know what, I'm going to save these people and hire all these people. Now, who in their right mind would do that? Like the scary part is that a lot of these people were teachers. Which is not, to me, it's not surprising. But I would think that to most people that would be surprising. Well, how can these teachers be, these are school kid teachers, like elementary school teachers. One was fired because she showed the video. Now, Duke asked me about the video. It's like, what's this Charlie Kirk video? And like, talk about the end of innocence, right? Now, I know eventually you'll see this video. God, I'm not going to show. I go, it's gone. You'll never find it. Not that he searches these things, but eventually he'll get to an age where him and his cousin or something will be on the free net. He won't have these kind of child bumpers on YouTube or the internet, and he'll search it and he'll find it, and that will be it. Because once you see that video, I don't know. I'll always be different after that video. It shocked me to my core. I really didn't think I had much shock in me, to tell you the truth. I thought I'd seen it all, because I've seen 1,000 people being unalived on Twitter through various means. A person walks into iPhone store, someone already knows they're going to, and boom, stuff like, we've all seen these things. They're just commonplace. There was a time where my sister and I would have to pass a tape called Faces of Death around to see these things. And it would come around every 2 years. Oh, we got the VHS, and you watch it and you like get sick to your stomach. It's just this weird part about the human experience. And now it's just, your thumb goes over snuff films, right? So I was certainly desensitized to the thought of an extinguished life. Didn't bother me. And oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's robbing an iPhone store. But there's something about that video and like seeing a soul just removed instantly. And the grief waves that will come, that are going to last for a long time, is the reconciliation of the people that, immediately danced on his grave out of they're in an echo chamber of themselves, of their own, where they've been told that this is okay behavior. They've been indoctrinated in their schools to think that this is okay behavior. So if you're told it's okay behavior, and if you're surrounded by people that, agree with that type of behavior, when you do it, you don't think anything of it. It's like, well, what? I thought we all do this. I thought we all dance on graves. Isn't that? So what's happening now is that it's like I compare it to like when my sister and I used to fight as kids. It would escalate, right? Pinching, and I'm going to pinch it back, and then hitting, not in the face, just somewhere. And then I'm going to hit you back. And then maybe you start getting the kicks out, right? And there was this one fight with my sister where she picked up this Red Lobster glass, and it had like, it was kind of like a bong, but it had a thick base on it. And she picked it up and she threw it, and I matrixed it, and it hit the wall, and it stuck in the wall. Like it was like a knife, like poof. And at that point, we came out of our delirium and our anger, and she was like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm super sorry, I'm sorry." I'm like, "Oh, that's okay." We're just kind of glad that nothing too bad happened. And I think that's what this exposure on these TikToks are happening. They're having that moment where the glass hits the, and they're like, "Oh my God, what did I just do there?" And now it's coming out. And unfortunately, my sister could take the glass out of the wall, and she wouldn't hear about it until 40 years later when I do it on the internet. But with these people coming out and doing that on their TikToks and their Instagram, they can't pull the glass out of the wall. It's going to be there forever and affect them. And to the degree I feel bad for them is that I feel they were brainwashed into it, and they will course correct as they grow older. I mean, your views change as you get older. You don't think the same things you did when you were younger as you do you're older. And you definitely have two minds. You have no kids and kids, so that little, the birth of a child is a real paradigm shift of values, And I say this with all these women on TikTok dancing on the graves. I know they're moms, right? But that's how deep the brainwashing can get. And I almost compare it to, like, there was this meme I saw where it was like a little kid with a toy phone. And it was like, no matter how strong you are, when a little toddler hands you a fake phone, you're going to talk into it, right? So if we assume these people that are dancing on the graves are the toddler with the phone, they put the phone up to, their dad or whatever, or the uncle, and they're like, hello? Yeah. Oh, it's Santa Claus? Oh, yeah. Oh, has Jimmy been good? Have you been good or bad? Good. Oh, yeah, he's been good. And they placate this illusion, because it's just, it's just a little toddler, right? Eventually, though, that toddler will either identify that this phone is fake and it's just a toy and stop doing that. But if they don't, and every time they hand this toy phone to an authority figure, they say, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, Jimmy, are you good or bad? The illusion continues till they're older, because they've never been course corrected on the fact that this phone really isn't real. And then when they reach the cold hand of reality, which is life, and like, life's a real mother effer. Like, the cold hand of reality is not for the faint of heart. It's tough, even the real world, where if you fail, you lose everything. I live in that world where failure means catastrophic outcomes, right? It's a razor's edge. So reality is a motherfucker, right? And if you're not prepared for that, if every time you handed a fake phone to someone and they placated that illusion that there's someone on the other line, you're not going to really fare well in the real world. There was someone I was talking to yesterday. She was a hairdresser, and she said she's 35, so she's not that old. She thinks she's old. She's like, the new hairdressers that are coming up in their early 20s, they call in sick all the time. Like, and she's like, I would party all night till 6 a.m. and then, dry heaving out the back door between clients before I called in sick. And this younger generation, it's just normal. They'll call in sick once a week. And to me, that represents, no one's ever told them that phone's fake, right? So they'll eventually lose that job. And of course they won't understand why. Like, well, in the real world here, we need employees that are going to service our clients, and these are your clients, and you're calling in sick. And, eventually what will happen is that they won't want you as a hairdresser. And that is the cold hand of reality, telling that person who's been told their whole life that there's someone on the other line of this fake phone, right? That really there isn't. And then, I don't know what happens after that. I don't know if I guess this is where you evolve due to, horrible pressures. You screwed up, and now you got to actually learn, and learning is the way I learn, catastrophically. That's why I always say, don't trade, because the catastrophic lesson you will learn is that the majority of your wealth that you had worked your whole life for will be eradicated by one small little mistake. I've done it. I've seen it I've seen it happen to, traders better than me. It's just always one thing. You could be on the, you're making a trade, and then the phone rings and you don't click that stop loss, and then it's a catastrophic. The market goes against you. If in that moment, almost like a simulation, it's like, how of all these moments, how can it be the one time that I didn't put a stop loss in? I'm bankrupt, right? It's a catastrophic learning lesson. And if I'm on the right side of history on anything, it's hopefully I've protected, the person who's interested in trading from not trading, and just, investing for the long term, and creating that low time horizon and looking out in the future. And hopefully, even though there's horrible things going on, maybe when we all look out into that future, it seems a little brighter. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this video.